welcome to Making Events Matter. I'm Dom Honey from Event Results, and I'm here with long-term collaborator and old mate, Steve Bather. Steve is the head honcho of the Realise Group, and we've spent our careers turning events from just another gathering to making them matter. And today we're going to talk about examples of our current or recent work, and for that means, Steve, you've been working on a number of webinars, haven't you, recently? The Association of Safeguarding Partners. What is that?
Yes, indeed. Hi, Dom. The current work, I guess, is a project that's been going on 5 years, started in lockdown. One of those typical instances where we had an event coming up, lockdown happened, so we switched to webinar. Actually, the value from the webinars has continued, and we're now up to our 61st webinar. So the Association of Safeguarding Partners are the multi-agency organisations in the UK and England specifically who look after safeguarding issues around children. And these are multi-agency organisations. They are governed by the three statutory partners, which are the police, social services from the local authority, and the local health organisation, or the local hub for health. And of course, they are multivarious in terms of their purpose is to reduce harm and of course severe harm to any children who are living in the region. So there are lots of pressures on these organisations. They're funded as one of the major budget items in local authorities, along with adult care and vulnerable adults and social care. So the opportunity to continually review and extract learning from the experience of working with vulnerable children has to be kind of disseminated throughout the whole organisation. So what the Association of Safeguarding Partners do is provide a central point through the membership to the association, and through the webinars we pick up on specific topics that often come from the participants and the members, but quite often come from us thinking about what the major issues and concerns are for those people.
So what's your role in all of this?
My role is basically to set up and brief the webinars. They're 75 minutes long. They occur on every Monday, third Monday in the month, and they are basically split so that we have presentations from people who are looking at specific operations or specific learning outcomes, or reviewing from local safeguarding partnerships. And we present, and we also have an interactive element to it. We have the speakers set up so that they present and then have a Q&A that's at least the same length as the presentation. And we use the technology online so that people can contribute anonymously, and that of course helps people because they're from all the levels within these organizations. Perhaps they're frontline workers, perhaps they're business administration people who work with the partnerships, but they're also the senior people and senior police officers in the organization. So we have a good dialogue, and then perhaps we pose a couple of questions, one or two questions. We perhaps use breakouts, but we mix it up so that it becomes interactive and people get to extract from it what is most important. And then following the webinar, we have a follow-up conversation with the presenters to make sure that they can respond to some of the questions and topics we didn't pick up during the presentation and the Q&A. And then we produce a report. And I guess the challenge is that the report is, as long as the video, it's quite lengthy to read. So we've also introduced AI to try and manage some of those kind of learning elements, the nuggets, the kernels of what people need to know at the front line. And we disseminate that information through. So people get bite-sized chunks of information and learning that they can apply immediately. It's been a fascinating project.
Yeah, and you've done a huge number of these sessions, haven't you? And how long do they go on for, these?
Well, they're 75 minutes long. They start at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, so they're kind of end of day. We regularly get between 180 and 220, safeguarding professionals. listening in. It's recorded so they can watch the follow-up. And we do occasionally do podcasts with speakers and things afterwards, so that we go into some of the topics that were of most interest to the practitioners in more depth. But yeah, it's a good way of safeguarding professionals, really ensuring that they are up to speed with the latest thinking.
Yes.
We often have the national panel. So there's an organisation, part of the Department of Education, who looks at all the rapid reviews and learning reviews and the statutory notices when a child has been harmed or injured. And the national panel often come and speak to TASP and talk about what they're seeing in terms of trends and how we might, as a professional body, do something about it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a very interesting and
important work.
Complex work. But yeah, it's all about trying to manage the extremely complex systems that people work in when they're looking at protecting children.
Yeah. And I suspect apart from XLEAP and the anonymous feedback platform that obviously allows a large number of people to interact and share their thoughts and give their feedback, really the platform or the virtual platform doesn't really make much difference. But just for listeners' satisfaction, what are you using for that?
Well, we're using Teams, and we're also using the TASP website, which ultimately distributes the information afterwards, so you can rewatch. Some of it is behind the members wall. So one of the reasons that you might become a member of TASP is to get access to the additional information. Anybody can come onto the webinar, but there is a kind of a paywall for the additional information that. Normally the safeguarding partnerships are willing to pay. It's a small fee, but it gives them access to all that other information and the rest of the kind of assets and things which are produced on the TAS website.
Are there any issues?
But anyway,
that's sorry. Just quickly before we move on, are there any issues of in terms of when the cases are discussed? Surely there's issues of privacy and. Do you have to address sort of do things have to be redacted or not?
Yeah,
not names and places and things like that.
It's a good question. I think by the time the learning outcomes are discussed by the safeguarding professionals, they're pretty much in the public domain. A lot of these local safeguarding, children's safeguarding kind of reviews, learning reviews. Do make it to the public sphere, because of course it's important that the organisations go through a proper learning process and reveal what happened, what went wrong, and what can be fixed. So they're very generally quite often 80% of the issues coming out of a learning review reveal things that are kind of known. It's about information sharing. It's about following a process. It's about spotting and being professionally curious about the situations that these safeguarding professionals find themselves in, and it's about adequate follow-up and so on. But 20% of it are new techniques or something that's worked in one region that can be shared with another. So, within that context, they're all professionals. So I think the sense is that because most of the information is in the public domain, it's about how we can extract the best possible learning from it that is applicable and pragmatic for those professionals to use.
Perfect.
But enough. So how have you been doing? What are you working on at the moment? What's kind of exciting
a little bit like you, actually, although I have clients who I met in lockdown, when everybody was scrabbling around to quickly learn or partner with agencies that knew how to run events well virtually. So I continued to run what are called virtual study days every couple of months for 200 or 300 medical professionals. And we use Swapcard for that because there's an element of networking, and also we are in those sorts of events, we tend to pre-record the talks given by presenters, and so essentially we're talking about a half a day or a full day worth of speaker content, maybe 7 or 8 sessions interspersed with live Q&A, all hosted on the Swapcard platform. So those are quite well templated. Many of the speakers have presented in this format before, and what it allows from a speaker perspective is they can relax on the day and not have to worry rather about their presentation, and then they can focus on the audience when it comes to question time, when that happens live. And so that works really nicely, or we find that too. Also, webinars for another client, we do probably one a month, I would say. Again, about an hour. Most of the time that's live, usually on Zoom. Actually, I find Zoom, either the basic package or the premium package, which offers more production facilities, as a pretty easy way, mainly for attendees, to access the content, and we don't have any issues over security or anything like that. So whereas Teams is often a good one if customers are worried about security, or they've got a Teams license anyway, I think Zoom is an easier platform, both for speakers and for and attendees.
Yeah. And Zoom, of course, still has legacy problems from people being suspicious about its
nervousness
security
around that, exactly. Although they fixed all of that ages ago.
They fixed all of that during lockdown.
Yeah.
And Teams was playing catch up for a long time, but then became the established one, of course, because it's Microsoft. Just going back to that, I'm curious that you're pre-recording the presentations and then the presenters are there for Q&A. And I see that as a great advantage. Do you get involved in the recording of those presentations, and are you kind of coaching them in terms of their style and their material and how the presentation is shaped? And do you edit it?
The material in this particular example is nuclear medicine, which is so these are healthcare professionals. So I cannot advise them on the content. I can advise them on the delivery, which I do sometimes, although usually in the form of briefings and advanced written briefings in terms of how to present, especially when they're doing it online, whether that's recorded or live, as in live but virtual. And not every speaker is comfortable recording themselves. So usually one or two out of maybe 6 or 7 speakers in each engagement will ask me to meet them either in Teams or in Zoom or wherever we choose, whatever's easiest for them, and I'll do the recording for them and make sure that their slides and their audio look good, and then they don't have to worry about it, and they don't need to worry about sending me large files and things, and then my job is then to aggregate all the video files, make sure that the timings are correct, and Swapcard's actually brilliant at what's called simul live. It's a term that doesn't really get used anymore, but what it means is it allows me to create an agenda that's visible on the event page, and then the videos will play as if live at the appropriate moment, and it goes as far as to prevent the attendee or the audience watching from moving, scrolling forward or scrolling back in the video. So it's as if the person is speaking live, but of course they aren't. So that works really well. And then the other one, which you're going to love, Steve, because I know you love this story, is an in-person event that I produced last month up in Manchester, and this one was a simple live stream, effectively. So just turning up with my cameras and plugging into the in-room audio, sat at the back and making sure that the live stream went out satisfactorily on Vimeo. But this was also the event that my customer asked me to digitally resurrect the long dead founder of the association that I was working for. So something I'd never done before, something I'd never been asked for. But obviously, as we've talked about over the last 10 episodes, we've been exploring AI. In fact, I remember you and I were talking about AI either at the turn of the year or just at the end of last year, and we said we should really explore in more detail about how AI is going to affect events. And of course, since then, it has really impacted our processes and the summaries that we provide and the detail that we can give customers after the event as well, building communities and things like that. It helps in all of those phases. But this one was completely unusual insofar as what we did was we took there wasn't very much source material of this person available, but we had one or two quite good pictures, and we had about a minute's worth of terrible audio of this man speaking 50 odd years ago. And we put it through AI. We got a voice model and we got a video model, or an actor as it's called. And I thought it looked great in the end. We put it all together for a 2-minute video. The script was based on, the script was provided by the grandson of the founder of this organization. And
Wow.
And I thought it was tremendous. Unfortunately, the sting in the tail is that although my customer thought what we'd done was phenomenal, and I was very impressed considering I'd not come across this kind of use of AI before. I was pleased with it, the customer was pleased with it, but unfortunately, the family had the final sign-off and they didn't want to use it. So it never saw the light of day.
But again, it's showing that you're at that leading edge and you're thinking about the technologies and what the technologies can do. I think just in the basic process that we go through in any event, I'm looking back at the 60 webinars we've done for TASP. We're constantly trying to think up new ways of engaging people, new ways of managing the interaction, and just mixing it up so it doesn't become a kind of a staid process that people get very used to and perhaps a little bored by.
Yeah.
And I think AI, as you're right, has just thrown the whole thing wide open. So
creativity,
there's huge opportunity.
Absolutely. It allows people like me, I would not consider myself a creative particularly. It allows people like me to use AI as a jumping off point, not as necessarily the finished article, but certainly allows it as a jumping off point. And in fact, I was so impressed with this work and the output that I've now digitally recreated my 9-year-old son, but maybe more importantly, my father. So all I need to do now is get about half an hour's worth of audio from him, and he's now 75. And I'm one day I will ask him before he goes doolally. I'll say to him, "Do you mind if I digitally recreate you when you're gone for the family and your grandchildren's benefit?"
Excellent. And in that, I'm sure you're spending a bit of time thinking about your own legacy and how you might continue after.
I can't think of anything worse, and I don't think anyone's going to want to digitally recreate me.
Yeah. You can live forever, Dom. We can all live forever.
Well, do you know what?
Virtual environment.
When I was using these new technologies to recreate people's voices and themselves. It's not that big a leap to say that in the future people will be able to upload their digital presence through whatever platforms they have been using, Facebook or LinkedIn or whatever. It'll, some AI will hose it all up, and that will be an approximation of the person. Maybe their pictures the videos that they've recorded, or the videos that they're in, personal stuff and public stuff, and I can well imagine that there will be services out there that will allow you to create yourself as an AI and live on for the benefit of your family or whoever, and you can then go and chat to them, privately or publicly, however it's set up. So, I could well see that happening in the future.
The slightly cynical view is that the legacy often then will last as long as some family member in the future continues to pay the subscription fee for the cloud.
Continues, yes, exactly.
But of course, it also depends on whether the planet can produce enough power to continually manage the requirements of AI.
Well, did you hear that Google are proposing to fire data centers into orbit on the basis that it will cost them less to cool them, because obviously it's freezing, or worse than freezing. It's absolute zero up in space. So they'll be able to harness the power of the sun. So the theory is that if they can get a data center up into space, that they won't have to pay for cooling and they won't have to pay for electricity. So who knows whether that will come off. Anyway, look, we're definitely up against our time limit or over it, and that was a good chat. Thanks, Steve.
Great.
Thanks everyone for listening, and we'll see you again next time.
Yep. Don't forget, like and subscribe, and let us know what else you would like us to talk about on Making Events Matter. Thanks, everyone. Bye.